sometimes having people share what they feel and their experiences is an integral part of learning to align purpose and vision for a network as what we have. So, well, first, I apologize. The internet is crazy today. Well, it kind of happens all the time. So, but some days you just hope it's better. Okay, so I'll probably just talk through some of the things I was going to share, and some of which you already talked about. And the thing is, when I started off as a 100 lead, as a country lead at 100, I tried my hand a bit with one or two other local networks, but nothing as sophisticated. And then I learned quite some very important lessons because first, there are people, professionals from very diverse backgrounds, and a lot of them have stuff, happening for them. And people join networks for their own purposes. Maybe they want to amplify their message, or they want to get more clients, or they want to meet new people, expand their networks, and all of these would be very important to these individuals. And the first step, I think, is learning to start from where we are. We don't have to embrace anything too fast. We don't have to get started on anything too quick, because it's important that we find common grounds. And one technique that I've learned to use is called the spiral method. Now, it was 2018 when I was participating at the International Human Rights Training Program in Montreal, Canada, that Equitas introduced me to the concept of the spiral method. And this is, it's quite popular. It's a very popular technique because it's been used in project management, it's been used in results management, it's been used in the educational sector, and it's pretty much used everywhere. But it works just as well if it's implemented the right way. And it has three key pillars, which is starting with the participants' experiences, critically analyzing and reflecting, and finally developing strategies and action. So, well, the full diagram has 5 steps, and it's kind of like a spiral. But the important thing is that it does not begin from the experiences of an expert or someone who is supposed to know everything, but then it begins with the experiences of all of the persons in the room, and everybody get a chance to share, what they've learned, their journey, what they know. And why that was particularly important for me was it made everybody feel like they belonged, because then everybody could tell their stories and it would matter. But then all of the stories were important, but what we're looking out for were patterns. What were the things that we share in common? Because the Nigerian space is a very crazy place to be, actually. The different parts, the politics, the regions, everybody's fighting everybody, and it's very difficult to get Nigerians to work together. But when people feel that the experiences count, then it looks really good. We find common grounds, and we can say, okay, here are things we can do together. It could be projects, it could be some form of support that we're able to give each other, at least at no cost. Because again, a lot of the ambassadors we have in Nigeria work in low resource communities, and so we can't really do so much for one another. But a little tweet here, a little post here, all that goes a real long way. But then there is also this thing you find common in networks, which is some voices are usually loud, and you have these people who want to, they're very enthusiastic about sharing all of the stuff that they have, and then there are other persons who are not as willing, or they are not as quick to share their journey and their learnings and all of that. And what we do, what is more effective is we get all the loud voices and we give to every other person what loud voices are prescribing. But again, that gives uh, quick results of what would look like some progress in the group, or in the long run, you'd have a very large group with very little engagement, and that I think is very poor. But when there are opportunities for everyone, uh, especially the silent ones, to speak up and share their experiences, their learnings, it helps the group, grow, grow and be more effective in the long run, because eventually everybody is really a part of the group. And besides the experiences, we also need to understand that our innermost reflections and the analysis we give of all that is happening with every other person and every other thing, all comes together to impact the health of the group, or the growth or the development of the group and the people within it. And that's why the three pillars are really important. So we take into cognizance the fact that we're going to fight a little, we're going to have some conflicts, because again, a lot of people join networks because they have personal interests that they want to build upon. And when they feel that their interests are not properly represented, or they're not getting as much benefit as they hoped for, chances are they'll probably not participate anymore, or walk away, or make trouble like we do around here. So we were constantly analyzing all that is happening, reflecting, strategizing, and the reason is a cycle. It's because it never quite ends. So even after we have performed some actions, we still go back to reflect on all that's happened, and we want to know if we have achieved the right results, and if the right results are playing positively in our different lives, in our different businesses, works, and all of that. And then also, very important is the encouragement that we want to give to one another. Because the thing is, besides the spiral method, which is participatory, right? I also look out to be a little more inclusive, and look out to be a little more encouraging. Because again, people are different. They have all the different stuff they're doing and they're working on. And kind of what I do is I try to be, the biggest fan of all the ambassadors in Nigeria. And uh, when any of us has to speak, maybe in a conference, or maybe has a conference organized by the organization, or they have a program, it doesn't matter how little that is. It doesn't matter uh, if the impact is going to be great or not. I do my best, it's okay, well, I'm currently so I'm going to give much support I can. So, we're tweeting about it, we're sharing on social media, and then I'm messaging all the members of the group, and I'm saying, okay, one of us is having a conference. Would you want to participate? And what that does for us is, if members of my network showed up for my event, I would feel like I was a part of the group, and I'd feel a little more loyal, a little more willing to compromise, to agree, to find common grounds. I would feel a little more comfortable to communicate openly. And some of these are the things that make it easier for a group to, find purpose and want to work together, achieve great things. But one thing I've also come to learn is there are lots of other, there are lots of other things people do. Yeah, and that I'm not a fan of, probably because I come from a human rights work background. Uh, but these principles, being participatory, being inclusive, encouraging one another, I think would help us to achieve more eventually, as that against later successes that would eventually not be sustainable. And all that aligns with saying we have in Africa that if you want to travel fast, you should go alone. But if you want to travel far, you should go with other people. Yeah. And that's the beauty of networking, and probably that's kind of the way our people understood it. And I I agree, obviously, because I'm biased, I'm African. But yeah, I kind of think that, yeah, we can build sustainable networks that take time to figure out our differences and take time to figure out uh, what our purpose would be. Because again, purpose and vision is something that will ultimately, change from time to time. It's never cast in stone. Because even though we're 100 ambassadors in Nigeria and 100 has an overall goal that we all believe to some extent, which is why we all joined the network. But then as a community, there are things that would happen, in our local context, maybe something political, something social, things are going to happen that would make us want to do things a little differently from uh, what other similar communities are doing in all the other countries. So I will conclude very quickly. I tend to talk a bit too much, so I'll conclude now by sharing a little something, about what's happening in the educational space in Nigeria. So yesterday, 100 we had a program implemented, and we're showcasing some of the great innovations coming out of India and South Africa, and some other countries, and it all seemed really beautiful. But back home, we would think, okay, maybe we could also have beautiful innovations to share, and yes, we do, but unfortunately, there's a lot of insecurity happening across the country. Millions of children can't go to school. As a matter of fact, it was in the news 2 days ago that there's an exam people write when they're done with secondary school certificate examination, right? In Nigeria, no one will be sitting for that exam. There's even a single student in 3 whole states. And of course, the universities have been shut down for months. And it's disheartening, so the level at which we're developing is a little different from what's happening in Ghana or in Kenya or in Ethiopia. And all of these experiences would form what our purpose would be as a group. Can we just have the schools open and have people go back in, as against thinking of, or maybe would create the next best innovation that will enable people go to school without being in the classrooms, create, and that's something some of us have been working on for some time, school without walls or school without borders and all those kinds of stuff. So people are working around creating all of those beautiful innovations, but the thing is, depending on the context of your network and all of the people that make it up, the purpose might change from time to time, and that is also okay. So far as that's what everyone in there agrees, and maybe somehow, deep down on the inside, the changes, still connect to the overall or the overarching vision that got the group started in the first place. But well, I think we should be open to change. We should be open to slow growth and development. And we should be open to being inclusive, being participatory, and just helping one another out. So I think that's basically it. So I'll shut up now. And
we have about 3 more minutes. I'm just if anybody wants to jump in and ask Michael. I think Michael, you've applied this practice and principle in so many different ways, and I know that your work through 100, you're always doing this, and so I think if anybody has some kind of questions about practical examples of how certain elements of what Michael applied or talked about he might have applied, we probably have time for 2 questions. So if anyone wants to just jump in, Pauline, Yannick, Brian, Shipra, Vera, since you've all been here, just unmute and jump in.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Go ahead, Yannick. Go ahead. We'll do Yannick, then Shipra. So you get 2 questions, and then we'll close.
Okay, trying to keep it quick and concise. I'd be curious if you can share a bit more about the specifics, how you convened the space to move actually beyond this kind of particular interests and potential conflict to collaboration. So you mentioned a few things, but how specifically then did on-premise, but potentially also during the pandemic?
Okay, so thank you very much, Yannick. So during the pandemic, a lot happened in Nigeria, we're a little different from every other country, when you did not work at all, and then homeschooling was also a no-no since there was the lockdown and all that. So, well, basically, what some of our people did was they tried on radio, they tried to do schools on TV, DVDs. A lot of person